So there's this new British TV show that's dropped on YouTube called The Genius Game, and the best way to describe it is it's basically like a cross between The Traitors and Among Us, for you guessed it, geniuses. And I actually think the thought process behind the show is really smart. You get a bunch of really intelligent people in one room to compete in challenges and of course win a lot of money. But I do think so far the execution has been a little bit meh. Of course, we're going to talk all about it and the 3 episodes that have been released so far, so it goes without saying that spoilers are included in this video, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. So yeah, like I said, the Genius Game, it gives me vibes of The Traitors, but it's got intelligent people that are competing in challenges to win money. But the thing that makes me laugh is 4 so-called smart people, they followed the same principles that any other people would. Like, I'm genuinely certain if I got a friend or family member to come in and watch the show with me, I did not tell them it was called The Genius Game, I don't think they would guess that these people called geniuses. Like, they all follow the same sheep and herd mentality I see in every single reality TV show that involves challenges. It's literally a case of whoever has the loudest voice and gives their opinion first, let's just all follow them. Like, for example, in round 1, Scott dictated absolutely everything to do with the challenge and everyone in his team just seemed to blindly follow him. And by the way, that Scott guy was doing way too much for that girl Charlotte. We're going to talk about it, but in episode 1, he was basically controlling the whole game plan for her to win. Like, I'm not being funny, but if I had the game plan, I want to win myself. I don't want anyone else to win for me. But either way, we will get into all of that. So, the Genius Games, what is it? So there's 2 challenges. First, the main challenge in which everyone competes, and the winner of that challenge gets a token of life and also gets to vote another person to get token of life as well, which means they are immune from the second match. And the lowest placed person gets automatically placed into the death match, which basically means they 1v1 someone else, and whoever loses gets kicked off the games and cannot win the prize money at the end of the challenges. So the goal, of course, is to finish high so you get the token of life, but most importantly, do not finish bottom so you go into the death match. And that's one thing about these games that are really interesting from what I've noticed in the first 3 episodes. It's far more advantageous to actually not finish in the bottom than it is to actually try and win. Because in this game, just like everything else, it's a case of biding your time and not trying to get too ahead too early. Because just like in society, if you're seen as too smart or too competent, you become a target by everyone else because everyone's worried about you and your potential, so they try to bring you down. But equally, if you're seen as the dumbest one of the group, you're going to get picked on, especially in death matches, as an easy opponent. So truthfully, especially in the earlier rounds, you just want to be steady Eddie in the middle and kind of fly under the radar. So that's why I say it's actually far more important to not lose the game than actually try and win it. And that was epitomized in episode 1, which was a heist challenge in where individuals had to steal items from a vault. There was money bags worth £1,000, gold bars worth £3,000, and a crown worth 10,000. And there was 5 money bags, 3 gold bars, and 1 crown. Then there was 4 rounds in total, and each round someone would go in and attempt to steal an item if they wanted to. Now, if they stole more items that was in the vault, for example, let's say 2 people tried to steal the 1 crown in there, no one would get the crown. So you had to talk with other people and discuss and make sure that people didn't steal the items you wanted to steal and vice versa. But the trick was there was also tip-offs. So if someone told you, I'm going to steal the crown, you could tip them off, and if they did steal it, they would be put in jail and miss the next round. And so what ends up happening is one alliance led by this guy called Scott basically said, let's target one person to make sure they don't steal anything and leave on £0 because they are guaranteed to go into the death match. And so that's exactly what happened. That whole team ganged up on this one guy called Paul, who I actually felt really sorry for, purely because at the start of the games, he said nothing's personal, it's just the game. And this was all spearheaded by this guy called Scott, who actually made sure that Charlotte won the game. Now, lo and behold, their plan went perfectly, and Charlotte ended up winning, stealing the most, and Paul was stuck in jail for 2 rounds and left with nothing. And because Charlotte won and Scott helped her to do so, she nominated him with her token of life, so he was exempt from the death games. And since Paul was bottom, he had to nominate someone to go into the death match, and he chose Basher, and he lost, so he was eliminated from the games. So that was episode 1. It was a bit tricky at first to understand what was going on, but once Scott took the hang of it, he basically told everyone what to do in that group. They all listened to him and they got away with the win. Now the problem was, as soon as Scott did this, he became a target because now everyone realized he was one of the smarter people in the group. So lo and behold, in episode 2, they were out to get him. And that's exactly what happened, because in episode 2, it became a zombie game. 2 zombies, 8 civilians or normal humans, and the role of the zombies were to infect the humans. And how this happens is by touching hands with another human. They both put their hands on a portal. If 2 humans touch each other, nothing happens. If 2 zombies touch each other, nothing happens. But if a zombie and a human touches each other, that human becomes a zombie. Now the zombies don't know each other and the humans don't know each other. They all blindly pick out the cards which tells them which role they are. The problem with this game is straight away Charlotte told everyone she was a zombie. Like, I don't care if you think that's the right play or not and you want to be truthful in the spirit of the games, but come on. The whole point of the game is that you don't reveal your identity, and she's gone and revealed it. Like literally, as soon as the game started, she straight away said, yes, I'm a zombie. Like what is the point of the whole game if you're going to reveal everyone? That's why I actually really rated the other guy, Amalfi, because he kept his identity hidden throughout. And in fact, a lot of the people actually thought Allison was the other zombie, so he stayed undercover. And that play of him faking to buy an antidote in case a zombie got him, even though he was a zombie himself, and hiding his token to do so was absolutely genius. Like, I want Amalfi to win this game purely for that play alone. Lo and behold, the games happen, and Scott was tricked by Amalfi and ended up becoming a zombie and didn't win the game. And the 4 contestants that did win the game and remained as humans then voted Scott to be in the death games purely because of how smart and how much of a threat he was. So this reverses back to my original point about don't seem too smart, especially at the start of the games. Scott chose Allison to be in the death match purely because he thought it would be an easier target, and lo and behold, he lost and he was sent home in week 2 after being star of the show in week 1. But the funniest thing from that episode was how everyone was convinced Allison was a zombie because one person said it. Like, these are meant to be geniuses and no one has a brain for themselves. One person says this person's a zombie and now everyone latches onto it as if they had any evidence. So this is why I go back to the premise of the show. Like, I actually thought the idea was amazing. Bring these smart geniuses into Rome and get them to do challenges. But when you boil it all down, they act like any other human. There was nothing genius about them. It was literally all herd and sheep mentality. One person said one thing and they all just seemed to follow it like a drone's voice. Like, I wouldn't class myself as a genius, but I am a generally quite smart person. I got all A's, A stars in GCSEs, A levels. I went to study engineering at Imperial College London, which is a top 10 university worldwide. But I know when I went into these games, I would not act in this way. Like, I would not be sitting there blindly following one person. And this was even more apparent in the 3rd episode. In the 3rd episode, it was called Code Breakers, where people had to guess a 10-letter term with clues. The problem was everyone was given different hints and clues, so they had to work together to figure out the word. But an even bigger twist was that one person was actually an imposter and knew the word from the start and had to throw everyone off the scent. Once again, at its premise, a really interesting game, but it gets ruined because the imposter just tells everyone they are the imposter straight away. So in this case, it was the American guy Benjamin who straight away said, I'm the imposter, I'm gonna make sure no one wins, but I'll help you get points. Like, what is the point of this game actually playing it for fun when one person's gonna mathematically decide that everyone's gonna get the same points and I'm going to decide who loses because I'm the imposter? And everyone just plays along with it because they've got a 90% chance of not being that one person that Benjamin singles out as who he's gonna let down and basically betray, which lo and behold ended up being this guy Ken, who was basically chosen by Benjamin as a guy he'll give the wrong clues to, so he finished bottom of the pile. Like, why didn't the other contestants just forget about Benjamin and put all their heads together and come up with the clues? Because there was more than enough hints there for those 10 geniuses to figure out the actual answer if they actually worked together. Instead, they just sat there and let Benjamin dictate the whole game. And lo and behold, Benjamin ended up winning. In fact, by the end of it, Amalfi had enough information to guess the word extinguish, but he also chose not to. And to be honest, I understand why, because he didn't want to be seen as someone that betrays people. But at the same time, a part of me really wanted him to just guess that word to get Benjamin out, because he was annoying me how much he was dictating that game because he was the imposter. And what was annoying me even more was that everyone was going along with it. But lo and behold, he chose Ken to be in the final battle to play this game of poker in a death match, and he chose Basher again, but this time he won in convincing fashion. And so 3 episodes down, we kind of get a good idea as to who's a real competitor. In my opinion, I think Amalfi and Ken are good potential people to reach the final. And Amalfi's a very smart competitor. He goes under the radar a little bit, but the way he played that second game as a zombie was to perfection. I just really wish he guessed that word for Code Breakers to get that Benjamin guy out, because he was annoying me. I'm going to continue watching the other episodes when they do come out, because I do think the premise of the show is really cool, but I do think that the way the games are executed can be improved upon. Like, I see some people online say the show is too smart for them and they don't understand the games. I don't think that's the problem. I think the games make complete sense. I think it's the way it's being played by the contestants. Because like I said at the top of the video, people are more afraid of losing than they are to win. So a lot of people are just following along with another person's voice to hope to get them through the game rather than going for the win, right? It's like if I relate it back to football, you get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw. So winning is incentivized more than drawing. Whereas in this game, it feels like 2 points for a win, 1 point for a draw. So it doesn't feel like the end of the world if you don't win the game. You'd rather just not lose it. So a lot of contestants are just playing safe in the attempt to not stand out and not seem too smart, because otherwise they'll get the same fate as what happened to Scott. Let me know your thoughts of the Genius game in the comments if you've watched it already. Do you agree with what I said, or do you disagree? And what do you think needs to be tweaked? And if you've been on the internet recently, you may have seen the question, who would win, 100 humans or 1 silverback gorilla? Well, the video beside me gives you exactly my thoughts.